Okay, we're beginning the last part of Chapter 6, Section 5, the section on personality development. Now, personality development begins when we first can see that the infant has self-concept. Now, at birth, we don't have self-concept. We don't realize we're looking at our own hands, our own feet. If there's a mirror in our crib, we may not realize we're looking at our own selves. This is something that seems to emerge gradually over time. Now, there's an ingenious little experiment that's been done with infants called the mirror technique and the nose touching technique. What they do is they observe infants and see how often that infant touches his or her nose before the experiment even begins. And then what they'll do is to sort of get a baseline for about how often infants touch their nose just randomly, just to touch their nose. Then they will put a dot of rouge or paint on the end of their nose. Then they will lay the infant in front of a mirror. Now, up until about 18 months, not a whole lot happens other than the infant randomly touching their nose. But around 18 months, when the infant looks in the mirror, he or she will begin to touch their nose where the rouge is after looking at themselves in the mirror, indicating that they understand that they're seeing themselves, and they also understand that that dot of rouge is something that isn't normally there. That's not part of what their face looks like. And this indicates self-concept, a sense of self. Now, self-awareness also begins to develop in infancy. We begin to understand that others are in this world, and we have a social exchange with them, that others have needs, that we need to cooperate, that we need to share. Self-awareness and self-concept also help to develop our self-consciousness, our emotions, so things like envy, things like pride, guilt, shame. It facilitates the development of those sort of emotions. Now, we do know, we have seen that every child, every person is born with a particular kind of temperament. And this is a style of reaction that's present in early life. And some of the things we look at when we talk about temperament are activity level, how often they smile and laugh, the regularity of eating and sleeping habits. Do they approach people? Do they withdraw with people? How does that work? Adaptability to new situations, and how intense is their response to new situations. All right. So these are some of the things that includes different aspects of behavior. Now, some different types of temperament have been identified. Chess and Thomas and Chess found that as early as from the first few days of life, infants could be classified into one of three types of temperaments. We have easy, difficult, and slow to warm up. And you can see the different criteria or categories we're looking at in determining temperament. Regularity of biological functioning, response to new stimuli, adaptability to new situations, the intensity of reactions, and the quality of mood. And we find that the three different temperaments, kind of how they played out, were easy, difficult, and slow to warm up. So easy infants might have regular biological functions, seem to have a positive mood. Difficult children may have a hard time adapting or to new situations. Their intensity of reactions may be super intense. Slow to warm up kids may be somewhat irregular. Intensity of reaction more mild, maybe more negative in mood, sometimes more positive, kind of both sides of the fence. And we know that temperament can be strengthened or weakened by the parent's reaction to it. A difficult child may become more difficult because of the rigidity of parents. All right. What we're looking for here is what's called a goodness of fit. A goodness of fit between the child and the parent. parent. There's agreement between the parent's expectation of the child and the child's temperament. And parents can positively modify a difficult temperament to achieve a goodness of fit. They realize when the child might be, let's say, not as adaptable to change, um, or be in a negative mood. And so parents can go about changing how they react and change their actions in order to adapt the child's actions and reactions and behaviors and achieve that goodness of fit where there's an agreement between what parents are expecting and what children do. Now, lastly, when we're looking at personality, we want to look at some gender differences. We do know that girls do tend to advance more rapidly in motor development than boys do in infancy. Um, Girls and boys, however, do seem to be socially similar. They're equally likely to smile at people's faces. Um, Girls and boys do start to begin to differ for their preferences for certain toys as early as 12 months old. Um, Girls tend to prefer to play with more gender specific toys like dolls, furniture, dishes, toys. Boys prefer transportation, trucks, cars, tools, things like that. Um, Some gender differences do show up later, like differences in spatial ability, but they aren't usually evident in um, early on in infancy. It does seem, however, getting back to the toy thing, that boys and girls do seem to show a preference for gender stereotypical toys even before they've had a chance really to be socialized to them or be even able to understand between the difference between genders. Now, adults' behavior towards infants can certainly influence infants. Parents do try to shape their parents' behavior during infancy, do lay that foundation for later childhood. Um, they are more likely to offer girls gender-specific toys like dolls and boys hammers and footballs, even when the sex of the baby is disguised. If we simply tell an adult this is a boy, we're more likely to offer boy kinds of things to boys. And if we tell the adult the baby is a girl, we're more likely to offer girl type things, whether they really know that they're boys or girls or not. Fathers are more likely to encourage rough and tumble play with their sons than they are in their girls. Um, Parents typically talk more to daughters than to sons. Parents typically tend to smile more at daughters and are more emotionally expressive with them. Um, Parents tend to use gender specific colors when dressing um, boys and girls, when decorating their rooms, things like that. Girls typically own more dolls, boys have more vehicles, military toys. Um, we do know that parents do tend to act favorably when infant daughters play with girls' toys and when their sons play with boys' toys. Um, Studies have been done where fathers do tend to show more negative reactions when sons play with girls' toys as opposed to when their girls play with boys' toys. So even though some of these things may seem to be pre-wired in us personality in terms of self-concept, in terms of um, temperament, how other people act and react to us can also lay the foundation for our personalities.